Hi, everybody. I'm Shauna Corden. I'm the owner of Shauna Corden Coaching and Webinars, and this is a program that's like many others that I do on a regular basis. If you like this program, please let me know and give me more feedback about some programs that you're interested in for future webinars. So today what I want to talk about is a wonderful book and tool that I use regularly in my coaching. I use it with my project management teams. I use it as a parent. I can't recommend this resource enough. It's a wonderful resource. It's called The 5 Love Languages. It's based on a book by Gary Chapman. Gary Chapman is a marriage and family therapist as well as a minister. And if you go out to his website, the5lovelanguages.com, you can find the many different versions of this book. They have them for team members and children and so on. Also, they have a really quick little assessment that you can conduct for yourself so that you can understand your own love language. And so what I want to do today is really talk about this tool and how you can use it as a form of recognition for your employees. I know it sounds strange to think about love at work, but it is a form of love for certain. And so I want to talk about this idea of being intentional with your recognition and how you can recognize employees using these different types. And then looking at the people in your life, both from a work perspective and at home, and then some things that you can do with them. And then I've got a little worksheet included, and you can email me to get a copy of this worksheet to really look at the opportunities and outline and define for people what kind of recognition you're providing and how it's working out for you. So let's go ahead and get started. So what is intentional recognition? Intentional is something that's done by design. It's not shooting from the hip or winging it, as we might like to call it. And recognition, of course, is some kind of special notice or attention. It's a formal acknowledgement. And be sure not to confuse recognition with rewards. Rewards are something tangible. Often in the workplace, we're talking about money or other perks like that, like a company car or something like that. But what we're really looking at is just showing people that we noticed what they did and that we're trying to tell them in a way that they best feel it and feel appreciated from it. And so when we design this kind of attention, this intentional recognition, it's because each of us needs basically what I call care and feeding to do our very best. And Gary refers to this in the book as basically a well, and you've got to keep the well full in order to be able to drink from it and do your best. We all know Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and there's air, water, food, shelter, and we just can't do anything until those particular needs are satisfied. And recognition is a need that we have. For some people, they have much more of it than others, but a lot of times we're getting recognition, but it's not the right kind of recognition or in the language that we actually speak, so we don't fit. So it's really important. Another analogy that we can use is talking about fuel in our tanks. So we can't run our vehicles without fuel in the tank. We're running on fumes, basically. We might even have to push our car or our motor vehicle to the side of the road just to keep moving. And so we've got to have the right kind of fuel, just like you might need diesel or unleaded or leaded, depending on the car you have. This is really important. And so we're going to go over the different fuel types that we can provide, as well as what the needs of the vehicle are. So, different optimum fuel types. These are the 5 types here. So, gifts. This can be anything from flowers to pizza to a diamond ring. Quality time. Spending time with me focused on the same thing I'm doing. So, multitasking doesn't count here. Acts of service. This is a chore or duty that I might have on a regular basis, but you do this for me. And so you're going out of your way to help me out. Physical touch, pretty self-explanatory there. And then words of affirmation. So this is, good job doesn't cut it here. It's got to be specific. It's got to be tailored. Instead of saying good job, you need to say, boy, you really handled that customer well. They were so upset, but you were able to calm them down and we were able to move on in the agenda. So something like that is far more important than just good job. Now, important to recognize here that depending on the person, they may not even hear something that's not their language. And most people have a primary language as well as a secondary language. And not to say that we don't appreciate all forms of these recognition, but some are more important than others. Okay. So moving on here, there's some hints in how to discover another's language that they speak. Often how they recognize other people is what they would prefer for themselves. So when we look at our team members, our family members, etc., we really want to notice what they do for us. Perhaps they love to send flowers, they send cards, maybe they go out of their way to do a special celebration for something that you've done, whether it be a good report card or a promotion or something like that. What do you gravitate to? Okay, important to know your own preferences and think about the forms of recognition that you've received in the past that you really appreciated. And I'll have to confess, I've had a wide variety of forms of recognition that I've really been pleased with in the past. So the thing that actually helped me the most in discovering my own language in the workplace was to think about the things that really were pet peeves for me, where maybe I felt slighted or insulted because I wasn't given special attention regarding an effort or a result that I had delivered. And usually the opposite of that is what you want. So for example, if they announce 12 people's names at some sort of coffee talk to recognize them and their accomplishments and you were left off the list, maybe public recognition is something that you would really appreciate. Okay? So really important, and the book doesn't really treat this so much, but I definitely have recognized this in my years as a manager and my years as a coach, is that there is a nuance to this that is in regard to the introversion or extroversion status of the person. So some people are thrilled to be recognized publicly at a coffee talk or in a newsletter to be named. Others are quite content to be in the background, and they would actually feel quite uncomfortable to be publicly recognized like that. They'd much rather appreciate a private meeting where they're recognized. And sometimes they're uncomfortable with that happening in person. They'd much rather have it be in writing. So try to get to know your family members and your employees, clients, well enough to really know that nuance about them. So here's some specific ways that you can recognize these individual languages in your employee or family member, colleague. The gifts person really looks forward to surprises, big or small. They enjoy planning events. They look forward to events. The anticipation of an event or a gift, it could be equally important as the gift or the event itself. They really feel penalized if their birthday or anniversary, etc., is forgotten. Some people are quite happy to have birthdays pass by with no recognition. They want to treat it like any other day of the year. Others are truly devastated when their close family members, friends, colleagues don't recognize or pay attention to that. Quality time, this person is really eager to spend time with you. Managers, careful to not label these employees as needy. They might want extra time with you. They might want to meet more frequently with you. They want to meet with you one-on-one. They want to have lunch. If they come to town because they don't work in the same town as you, they might want to have dinner with you. And that attention and focus is really important. So no cell phone checking, email checking. They really want to have your attention. And this is a reward for them. They need it to perform their best. It's part of their fuel, but it's also a form of recognition for them. Acts of service. This is when a person feels most fulfilled when their obligations or responsibilities are covered by another. This could be backing up a fellow employee while they're on vacation. Perhaps they're overloaded and you offer to take a couple of bids off their desk and process them on their behalf. At home, this might look like picking up your partner's dry cleaning, or if they normally prepare dinner, you prepare dinner for them to give them a break, things like that. Often helpers are quite natural at doing this. They want to be in the background and they love to help the kind of star person succeed, but they don't often allow others to do this for them. And so it's important to really confirm that they're okay with someone else doing this for them rather than a gift or something like that. Physical touch, these people are, I think, the easiest to identify. They love to shake your hand, they touch you several times, pat you on the back, things like that. In the workplace, this can be mistaken between genders as unwanted attention, so do be careful. Especially men, make sure that you contain your touching to hands. Sometimes people are really sensitive to this and they can take great offense, so you got to be careful there. When it's children or a partner or something like that, they want to hold your hand, put their arm around you, they want lots of hugs. I won't mention the other stuff, that's kind of obvious, but the absence of the physical touch can also feel like punishment. It's one of those things that they really crave. Again, remember, this is fuel for people. And then finally, the words of affirmation. Mark Twain said, "I can live for 2 months on a good compliment." That's the epitome of this. The more specific, the better. These people also take criticism especially hard. So you have to be very careful to temper how you give feedback, make sure it's actionable. And when you have multiple things to give feedback on, try to focus on just one at a time. Don't give them multiple areas for improvement because it can be demotivating rather than inspiring for them to improve. Okay. Same thing with the family members. You look nice today. Boy, you made a great meal, things like that. Those are important things to include for the words of affirmation person. So how do we apply these languages? Basically, we want to narrow down or discover the language of the recipient. So we want to do a test run. And this is just like any other science experiment that you did in school. We want to have a hypothesis. We want to say, I think that Joe is a quality time person. Therefore, I'm going to schedule some more one-on-one time with them. I'm going to make sure that I have lunch with them once a week, and so on. And then observe their performance, observe their reactions, and did it hit the mark? And don't be afraid to be direct and actually ask your employee, I have a perception that quality time with me is quite important. And therefore, I'm making an effort to do X and Y. Is this helping? Or perhaps they've gotten uncomfortable with it and you want to back off a little bit. So don't be afraid to be direct and ask, did this hit their radar? And I wouldn't be afraid to be very transparent with your teams and say, hey, I've learned this new tool to be more specific about how I recognize employees. I don't want to use a peanut butter spread approach. I want to tailor my recognition to each individual appropriately. One of the things that I heard over and over again as a manager is that when it came to our rating system, and whether they were in the top 10 to 15%, the next 25, or in the lower half, being recognized in those top categories was more important to them than a monetary increase. They just felt like it was a thank you, it was a recognition, it was appreciation. Money was great, but they really felt defeated if they were not rated and recognized appropriately with some acknowledgement like that. So don't be afraid to really be transparent with what your intentions are about learning. And don't forget that many of the ways that we recognize employees have nothing to do with money, or they're just pennies. Okay. And it's a very small trade-off to make this extra effort for higher employee engagement, higher satisfaction, and more satisfaction on the manager's part for really hitting a home run when it came to telling employees that they're appreciated. Okay, so moving on here with step 4, exploring further. How would they like to be recognized? If they're a gifts person, be sure you give them the right gift. We've all gotten the Christmas gift that we were like, oh, gee, thanks. And some of us really don't like gift cards and things like that. So be specific and ask them. Find out if they want movie tickets. Find out if they want dinner out, things like that. One of my favorite managers really recognized me in the past when I'd been putting in extra hours, extra effort, would buy a dinner for me to take my family out. And they didn't send it to me, actually. Send it to my spouse to say, hey, we really appreciate Shauna's work, and we know it's a big sacrifice with family time, and we just want to have you have a dinner out on us. And boy, it made my partner feel really good. It made the whole workplace go a lot more smoothly when I felt like I was being recognized for that extra effort, and my partner knew it too. Okay. And then finally, note the preferences. Keep this in a log. I highly encourage you all to have a folder on every employee, every conversation, make a few notes in there, but also have this list. Know that they're introvert or extrovert, that they want public or private recognition, and which of these languages they speak. And if there's specifics, list the specifics, and then move on to the next person on your list. So, gifts in detail here. In the workplace, this can look like management by walking around. This was a big management and people strategy at Hewlett-Packard. Dave Packard put this together, and it was basically walking around the office and noticing people doing things right, and on the spur of the moment, handing out, candy bars, movie tickets, you name it. Easy stuff to do, small monetary expense, but really went a long way. This can also be cards or thank yous. Jack Welch is quite famous for handwriting thank you notes to employees who had done a good job, and those notes are treasured by those people. That someone so important to the company, the CEO would take the time to write them a note. And for some people, it might be something like going to an what we call an external event. Something not offered within the company, but maybe something related to their profession. Perhaps it's a woman's conference, maybe it's something to do with project management, or having an opportunity to do something kind of outside the box. So gifts can really be big or small, simple. You really get extra points when you know specifics like colors and sizes and stuff like that. And I've listed some examples here. And then, an extra mile that you can go is really noticing their learning preferences. Are they visual? Are they more audio oriented, meaning more sensually oriented? If so, try to tailor the gift to something that works for them. For the audio person, it might be an Apple playlist. For a visual person, it might be photography. For a kinesthetic person, it might be a cashmere wrap, my favorite, personally. So something to look at in terms of gifts. And I encourage you to take a moment now and think about some key people in your life, whether it be your employees, your manager, your partner. And by the way, all of us are employees. We need, managers need recognition too. It's not just downhill. And so being sure to tell your manager how they really encouraged you or how they made you feel good, something like that, really important as well. Okay, so quality time. Just about anything goes as long as you're doing it together and you're not multitasking. So a good example is I love to do the crossword. However, I'm not allowed to do it while we're watching TV if that's my husband's quality time, because then I'm not watching TV, I'm doing the crossword. So do pay attention to that. They really notice those little things. I'm here, I'm with you, I'm available every time you make a comment, but it's not the same. So taking a walk, having a meal together, talking on the phone, you name it, all those things can qualify as quality time. Workplace, this might mean having lunch or extra one-on-one meetings or just being available, whether it be by text message or phone calls. Could be time off of work. So if you have the availability to or authority to award comp time, that can be a quality time kind of recognition. Or face-to-face, making sure that you make the time to have coffee or a meal or something like that with your employees. So acts of service. Again, this is anything that removes a regular chore. So if it's your partner's job to take out the trash and you do it for them, that's performing an act of service for them. There are lots and lots of chores in our lives. In the workplace, though, this can be something as simple as offering to bring someone a cup of tea. You're going to Starbucks, you're going to bring home a latte for them. If you're running to the copier, can you copy something them? Anything like that. It can also be something like sharing a tip or trick. If you've learned how to master Google Docs or how to record something, etc., that can be really helpful. It might be that you back someone up while they're on vacation, or they're double booked and they need to be in two places at once. Can you cover a meeting for them? It might be reviewing an article they wrote for a newsletter, helping them edit, or contributing to their ideas in general, just being a brainstorming partner, things like that. That can be both a quality time and an act of service. Okay. So physical touch, I mentioned this earlier, you're really limited in the workplace. We do need to be careful what this looks like. But really this person wants to feel physically connected, and absence of touch is really punishment. So any of these things here that I've got listed, whether it's hugs or holding hands or back rubs, you name it, those all qualify in the physical touch fuel category. And then finally, words of affirmation. This needs to be sincere. It needs to be specific. You might have to search long and hard to find something nice to say, but be sure it's honest. Be sure you mean it. And it can be, you were well prepared, you were on time. It can be you were polite, you were presented well, you name it. Do notice what they take pride in. It might be their appearance, it might be their preparation, it might be their punctuality. Be sure to recognize that. A lot of times people ignore their gifts because they think that everyone has that gift. They think, oh, if it's easy for me, it must be easy for everyone. Well, we all know that's not true. It's a very diverse world. And so do recognize the things they do well. And people really bloom when you're able to acknowledge them. I'm sure all of you can think of an example in your early childhood where a teacher, a coach, a member of the worship community, a neighbor said, boy, you really did a nice job with blank, and how much that really boosted your self-esteem and how you actually absorbed it as part of your personality and confidence moving forward into adulthood, and how you embraced continuing to do that action because of that compliment. The same thing is true as we're adults. So it's important to really recognize that. It does need to be done frequently. It's not necessarily an everyday thing, but an absence is something that actually causes them concern. And again, the the tank can get quite empty. And different people have different fuel economies, I would say. So some people will need words of affirmation more frequently than others. Personally, I think the mark 22 months on a good compliment is a little long. I know the employees I've had that are words of affirmation. I actually have a child that's a words of affirmation. 2 months would be way too long. Okay. Now, I will point out that sometimes these people, in an absence of observation from you, may draw it to your attention. Did you not like the dinner I prepared for you? Can you give me some feedback on my presentation? Because I haven't heard anything. You might feel a little trapped when they confront you or ask for this directly. And feel free to buy yourself some time and say, you know, let me think on this a little bit, and I want to get back to you. Make sure you follow up and say, you know, I noticed you did this and this well. I'm really encouraged by this observation. Keep up the good work on this, etc. And depending on how confident they're feeling, you may ask permission to share an observation of something they could improve. Or if you're feeling like they're a little fragile, you might want to hold back on that. Okay, but important to ask for permission. This is a coaching technique we use when we want to coach someone in a new or a sensitive area. And so if they're not ready for it, hopefully they'll just say, no, I'm not ready for that, or not right now, or, you know, right now I just want to enjoy the feelings of performing well. So let's see. In terms of the workplace, again, remember the nuance of introvert versus extrovert. Private or public recognition depends on their status. Some employees are going to be ambiverts, meaning they can go with the flow depending on what the situation commands, but they have a preference, so be sure and ask them about that. E-Awards is a specific program, but it's basically an opportunity to recognize them publicly with a copy to their manager about what they did. Letters of recommendation is another words of affirmation opportunity, as well as referrals or references. So if you love working with someone, for example, if you love this webinar, you learned a lot from this, you know, tell your friend, recommend the resource, ask me to come and speak to your team about this. That's an opportunity. That's basically a compliment. That's words of affirmation. So a real opportunity there. So again, this is a real summary of the 5 love languages and what they look like. We've got examples for home. We've got examples for work. And so be sure to tailor it. Remember to confirm with your audience and let them know that you had the intention of sharing with them that you wanted to show them some appreciation, and that's why you did the action that you did. And is that the right way to do it? Okay, we don't have to be perfect. I've also got this worksheet here where you can list all the key people in your life, whether it be colleagues or managers or employees, family members. Don't forget the other important people in your life, like your hairdresser, your doctor, etc., friends. And if you want to recognize them, what that looks like. Okay. So if you enjoyed this presentation, be sure So with that, thanks for your attention, and take care. Bye-bye.